Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here and I'm back again with a brand new video. So this is going to be my Galaxy A16 revisited review, and this phone has been out for a little bit over 9 months now, which means that it's almost closing in on its 1 year cycle. So it does have some positives, but it also has some negatives. But ultimately, is this phone worth getting now that there has been a lot of other phones with a similar price point? So let's have a conversation, and obviously one of the first key points that I want to speak on is within the design itself. So if we compare it to its previous generation, the Galaxy A15, then not too much has changed other than sort of the back material. So in the A15 they did use this sort of kind of matte finish, where the A16 has this glossy reflective material that they use, which does catch a lot of fingerprint. It does get slippery, so keep that in mind. Now this phone does come in at a larger footprint than the previous generation. On the back though, specifically, you do get a triple camera setup with your main sensor being a 50 megapixel sensor. You also get an ultra wide and a macro sensor. I do have a full camera review. It's linked in the description below, so if you want to check it out. So one of the things that a lot of people did complain about, and I kind of get it, but not really, is the fact that they did decide to remove the headphone jack all around. Now, we don't really get anything to kind of replace the headphone jack as far as like adding an additional feature, but they just stripped it out and gave you a kind of a blank space there. So you get a microphone, your USB-C that does support 25 watt of fast charging, as well as your bottom facing speaker. On the right hand side of the phone, they didn't really change much from the previous generation. So you still kind of get the same layout as far as your power button, fingerprint sensor, your volume up and down. Now, with my experience, the fingerprint sensor has been, for better or for worse, kind of inconsistent, but it's not horrible. I would say it gets my fingerprint read right about 75% of the time. So it's not the end of the world. It's just not the most accurate fingerprint sensor in the world either. And yeah, as far as design, that pretty much wraps it up. Now, this phone's biggest advantage is within the display. So you get a really decently large display. Yet the bezels may not be the smallest. They're kind of chunky in today's smartphone world. But for the most part, you still get a 1080p OLED display that does support a decently high refresh rate. So it gets a thumbs up in that regard. And the display and everything that you would do with this display looks pretty good for the most part. And I really don't have too much to complain about. Even when it comes to sort of high peak brightness, it does get really bright. So in outdoor high condition, in really bright sun conditions, or in really bright conditions in general, this phone does a pretty good job in that regard. Now, again, display, not really too much to complain about, especially for the $200 price point, and you do get your high refresh rate that does make the experience a little bit smoother and gives me a overall good quality display experience. So watching videos, going through social media, browsing the web, that hasn't really changed in the past 9 months. I still think that this is the biggest asset that this phone has to provide. Now, I do want to speak on the most controversial topic when it comes to the Galaxy A16, which is the performance. And I hate to say it, this phone is not a good performing device. Even if you pay $200 for it, which I get it's relatively on the low end, this is not a good performing phone, and it's kind of disappointing. So yeah, you get a large battery, which I guess the biggest asset when it comes to performance is the battery life. But as far as everything else, this phone has been getting slower and slower and slower and slower as time passes by. And I get that that's normal in smartphones, but this phone has gotten significantly slow, and it does crash more than I like it to. If you can kind of put up with it, you'll be fine. Me personally, I'm not really the biggest fan of this phone's performance. I guess I made myself clear on that point. If you do get the international model and not the US model, you'll receive more RAM, higher storage, and slightly higher clocked CPU and GPU. So I guess if you want a better performing A16, get the international model before you get the US model. Light games will work fine on this device for the most part. Heavy demanding games, it's just you're asking for your phone to crash. So that pretty much sums up the biggest negative when it comes to this phone. Another reason why you're not getting this phone is obviously with the camera. Now the camera is okay, it's fine under good lighting conditions. It takes okay pictures, and I do have my full camera review in the description below. You can check it out there. But if I were to tell you that they changed a lot from the A15 to the A16 in the camera department, I'm telling you right now that they didn't. Now, the Galaxy A17 should be out within the next few months. With that being said, I don't think that they're really gonna do too much as far as performance. I wonder if they're gonna kind of slightly tweak the design, because this design has been overused now, and I guess they just need something to refresh this phone with. We'll see what they end up doing. Rumors are not looking too good though, but let's just not jump to conclusions. Let's not jump to conclusions until we actually get there. But for the most part, if you want a somewhat of a on the low end of phones, and I guess I can't really say reliable, but I can say that has a good display and a good battery life and a decently fast charging speeds, then I guess this phone is for you. And you can take some okay pictures under good lighting conditions. But other than that, to be honest with you, I would pay attention and pay a little bit more money and look somewhere else, because you can definitely get a more advanced device than this if you spend $50 to $100 more. So if you want more options, I'll also leave them in the description below, or you can just ask me in the comments below and I'll let you know. So with that being said, I do want to thank you all so much for watching, and I do want to hear your thoughts about this device now that it's been 9 months. Do you recommend it? And if you have it, what do you think of it so far, and how long you had it? Let me know all that in the comments below, and I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I do want to catch you in the next video. Overall, 9 months later, I'd say that this phone is a hard buy, but if you're in the market for a sub $200 phones and you don't want to really spend more than that, then obviously I guess this is the phone for you.